when it was such shaky science to begin with. And people make decisions on this very questionable regulation. That's one thing that anybody that repeats that thing to you is not on your side. If they say, well, as long as 85% of the cars are going under the speed limit, but they're not going to be any help to you. But I'm sure there's people that have better experiences than us, and eventually maybe something will change. Maybe we'll get a little bit better in our town. But as of now, we're an example of everything that you should not do. Okay, that's it for me.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Your story kind of touches on one particularly important thing, which is that road safety is a social justice issue. So you mentioned that Memorial in Neptune City is like a moat. It's definitely something to think about. It does separate people, and that was one of Anthony Fox's Secretary of U.S. Transportation Department made a point about, that roads should not separate neighborhoods. And the other thing is the 85% rule. So if any of you are curious about what that means, take a look online. It's really staggering that that's a thing. And Doug McQueen from Asbury Park Complete Streets Coalition also, maybe you can talk to us a little more. You can wrap up and we can talk about the possibility of all of us looking into gathering together in a coalition, Jersey Shore Complete Streets Coalition, or even the state of New Jersey, sky's the limit. Doug, thanks.
Thanks, Polly. I won't take up too much time. I'll just try and make a couple points.
I'm sorry, one thing. Deb, the organizer came in a moment ago and she said that we have until 11:30 because we lost some time. So we're not in a huge hurry. We're going to have time for questions and answers. The whole thing has been pushed 15 minutes, the whole summit.
Thanks, Polly. Yeah, I'll try and move quickly and just emphasize some of the things that have been said. One of the points I wanted to emphasize were the frustrations that a lot of people in this room who are new to advocacy probably got a lot out of hearing what Kenny just said about frustrations. You are going to be frustrated, especially with the initial reaction that you get from city leaders or other public officials who don't know where you're coming from. I actually sat in the room for a couple meetings with Kenny and have seen how much pushback is possible from local leaders that aren't yet on board with your message. So probably one of the best ways to mitigate that, and it's something that's been said up and down here, is educate yourself, speak the correct language before you try and go into to meet with city leaders. One of the best ways to do that is what we're all doing right now. Is we're all here at this Bike and Walk convention, or part of the Bike and Walk Coalition. And Cindy Steiner has been a great resource for teaching us how to use the right language and how to ask the right questions. So while you may have an initial frustration, and there may be many initial frustrations, as time goes on, as long as we all keep using that same language and kind of work together, we can find ways of kind of chipping through the shell and getting on the inside. Regarding getting on the inside, another avenue of achieving success that we've seen and that we were very lucky with in Asbury Park was having a city leader like our transportation planner, Mike Manzella, who saw the problems through the same lens that we saw them. And once we realized that we had a champion, and that's one thing I would suggest, is find a local leader who can be a champion and work with them. Show the rest of the public that you're pulling on the same end of the rope, and you're more likely to make some gains. And one thing Mike Manzella told us is that with him as a city official and us as advocates, he always says, hey, we need the advocates. We need you there saying these things. We need you to be out there as the public voice so that we can then say that we're responding to the public. So between the city officials and the advocates, you can use each other as leverage to get things done instead of fighting against each other, which unfortunately in the beginning we had a lot of frustrations with too, saying the wrong things or saying it too loud or to the wrong people and seeming like you're against someone. you can achieve so much more if you're pulling on the same end of the rope as at least one or two of your city officials. Another point that I just wanted to tag onto that was alluded to here and actually has worked really well for us is you can't overemphasize the importance of having a cup of coffee. Meeting up with other people in your neighborhood, or meeting up with other people in similar situations with you and having a cup of coffee puts so many ideas on the table and leads to a pathway of where you should go next. That's another point I wanted to emphasize. And finally, one other smaller little point was try and make issues nonpartisan. Make the case of who you're talking to the audience you're speaking to. If you're speaking to business leaders, make the business case. Hey, slowing down the traffic and adding bike lanes is better for your business. We live in a really, really hyper-partisan world right now. And as soon as you start to advocate for something, the first thing everyone thinks is, hey, whose team are you on? But if you make the case that I'm not on anyone's team, I'm on your team, then you'll find that your arguments go a lot farther. At least we have. When we speak to school groups, we talk about kids and safety. When we speak to senior citizens groups or neighborhood groups, you talk about the ability for people to get around the neighborhood and make their quality of life better. So it doesn't have to be about whether it's Republican or Democrat, or you don't have to wear a label about whose team you're on. You just have to address the issue to the audience you're speaking to and show them how much better it is for them. Then finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about or touch on that is an issue that we've spoken about before is joining forces across municipal borders and at a more regional level. And Ben alluded to that before, and it's one thing I'm really, really looking forward to across Monmouth County is reaching out to mayors, local leaders, and advocates in neighboring towns, and including to help issues like Kenny's going through in Neptune City and try and lift other people up by bringing a broader message across a region so that we can create change. So I really look forward to doing that and hope that we can work on that as soon as possible.
Okay. So thank you all. Thank you for that. I want to make sure that you all know that you can, we have our business cards here, but for any of you who'd like to get in touch going forward to follow up on the possibility of an interconnected network of accessibility through our neighboring towns or the entire state, we really want to continue that conversation, plant that seed. So please reach out. We'll connect you with any of the panelists here. And now I'd like to open it up to questions. I'll take that mic and take it out in case anyone has anything to ask the panelists. And as you've been looking at the slides, maybe you've noticed some things that you wondered about. If you've seen some of the tactical urbanism or events that we've done. Anybody have a question?
Hi, this is to everybody. My name is John. I live in Bergen County. I'm a bike rider. I don't have any affiliation. And I'm wondering, how do I do what you guys did? I don't even know if anybody else in the county is interested. I've talked to bike shops in the area. I've got anecdotal information that everybody's afraid to ride in the county. I've talked to the North Jersey Bike Group who directed me to Cindy Steiner. He runs bike tours, but he doesn't want to have safe streets.
That app I was referring to, Nextdoor, might be. That app I was referring to, Nextdoor, might be a good way to start because that's how I found out about
Next
it.
door?
Yeah.
Social
It's a
networking in
social-
general. networking.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Write
it's
that down, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I mean that's how I found out about what people are going to Asbury Park, and it was very instrumental in building a coalition to support it. So
Sounds good, I'll look there.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
I
Anybody
was gonna
else?
say, does your town have an advocacy group at all? Like,
Well, I'm in a small town, it's Pagoda. All the,
do they have any kind of like bike safety
I don't think so.
group like through the town? Like,
Yeah, probably have to look at it a little more. All
Maybe.
these towns are connected though.
yeah.
So that's why I went to the county level. And what I found out there was that the county has a program they developed with consultants about 5-6 years ago after a fatality in Paramus, but they never implemented it. And I was able to reach out to one of the freeholders who I knew, and the rub there is that the local towns don't want to do bike lanes. And the reason why is they don't want to take parking away. And then it gets back to an issue of electability. So even though I know this person, she dropped the issue. And obviously she sees that it's not going to move forward.
Okay, well, maybe find out who your, I'm not sure who your local TMA person is, the transportation manager.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great.
Thanks, Lisa. You're in good hands. Anybody else? We have about 10 minutes left, so let's try to get everybody's questions out.
I'm Kurt. I'm here from the East Stratton Collaborative. We recently started a traffic safety organizing committee at my organization. And I guess I have questions for the elected officials and then for the more grassroots as well. For the elected officials, how can